Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and it's no secret that Marvel Future Fight is in the doldrums of popularity right now. And in general, I'd say that September, October is some of the most boring time of the year in the game, similar to like January, February. The game just has these cycles of ups and downs, and obviously it peaks with the anniversary, it peaks with Black Friday, but the time preceding those peaks is usually the lows for the year. But aside from that, people want to talk about, like the state of the game, or, what can be done to improve the game. Is the game dying? Is the game dead? Etc., etc., etc. And I think it's a pretty interesting conversation to have, sure, but I think it can pretty simply be boiled down to two different things that are connected, but basically, talk about completely different player bases. But the only two player bases that matter, because obviously the game, listen, if the game is dying or dead or whatever, feels boring, it's because there's not enough people talking about it, or there's not enough people playing it. It's one or the other, right? And nowadays with the way social media and turnover for things goes, most games feel dead, right? People don't talk about a lot of different games. They just obsess about one thing for a few months and then it's gone. Right? The cycle of news and of what things people focus on is shorter and shorter and shorter, and that's not a very good thing, and that's a conversation for not this channel. But I think it contributes to the feeling that people have, like, oh man, MFF sucks, man. I don't think the core of MFF sucks, to be fair. I don't think the core of the game is bad or needs some sort of like massive overhaul, but I think that the two changes that need to happen are going to happen over time. They're not going to happen in one update, first of all, and they have to speak to two completely different player bases, because they need to address both of those topics that I mentioned at the beginning. Not enough people are playing the game, not enough people are talking about the game. Both of those things need to go up, and they kind of go up for different reasons, believe it or not. So the first thing is pretty straightforward. The game just doesn't have enough new people playing it. And in order to get more new people playing it, they have to make the new player experience better. And I don't have a long list or a detailed instruction guide, whatever suggestion, point by point, bullet point of what they can do. But I can tell you that they can make the game less complicated for new players. They have to find a way to truncate and reduce and distill down some of the aspects of the game. And that might mean axing a game mode or two. I don't know, but I think things like World Event, Multiverse Invasion, these game modes could be cut or merged somehow, because it's basically just, it's rewards that you can get everywhere else for Multiverse Invasion, and then for World Event, it's just for that one unique item that you can get, the agent tokens and the agent token chests or whatever they're called. But I think the spirit and the idea of World Events just doesn't work anymore. Kind of baiting new players by giving them the ability to play with another player's character. I think this is something they can just introduce to the game in a different way, for example. I don't want to get too into the details here, but I mean, for example, they could let you, once a day, you could borrow 3 characters from another player in your alliance, and that would encourage people to go into an alliance. That would encourage the social, the community aspect of the game, and it would still sort of achieve the same thing that World Event does, which is basically to show new players the shiniest thing and be like, look, if you keep playing, you'll get this. Whoa, you have a Ghastly now, but if you keep playing, you'll have this, the rank 1 Captain America, or whatever it is. Because that's what the World Event is, right? It's the rank 1 characters for these different, like that's the rank 1 Cyclops and the rank 1 Icarus, and you can see their builds, and you can, oh, who is this, right? And then you can go, and if you want to look, you can be like, okay, this Cyclops build with this brilliant rage it actually belongs to, let's take a look here. It belongs to this guy, Kaito Kirby. Shoutouts to Kaito Kirby, right? And then so they just took his build. Anyways, so you kind of get what I'm saying here. Oh, boom, there you go. Bob's your uncle. So they gotta truncate these game modes that are overly complicated and don't really serve their purpose anymore. They're outdated, etc. They're not really like pulling people in, and by doing that, they will simplify the game. And that's I think it's a big hurdle for new players, is just they're overwhelmed, they're inundated with stuff, right? Look at all these tokens, look at all these things. It's just too much to keep track of for a new player. Some of it is fun, some of it is flavor, right? It's an RPG, you should have lots of things to collect. You can kind of think of it as if you're like playing an RPG on a console, there's lots of different items to collect and you want to slurp them all up and you want to feel like, I've collected all of my things, right? People who like playing RPGs, they're like Gollum, they want to just like collect a lot of things and hoard them. I get that, but there has to be a balance between hoarding and whatever the hell this has become. You know, they could probably truncate all of these into just generic ones that you can use, and it uses more of them when you use when you go from level 1 to 6, right? Listen, there's lots of things. I'm sure the devs are fully aware of all of the things that they can do to make the game more casual friendly, right? And remember, I made that video about why I think hyper casual is bad for Marvel Future Fight, but there's a big difference between hyper casual and casual. And so I think the game needs to become a bit more casual friendly, especially at the beginning. The first 6 months of the game should be easy, should be fun. You should be showered with rewards, and you also should not get confused. And so they need to do some internal testing. They need to do some whatever player feedback. I don't know what it is. And they need to figure out what, why the game is too complex for new players so that they can retain them for longer. That's the first thing. The second thing is not enough people are talking about the game. That's the second problem, and that requires a whole different player base because, sure, new players playing a new game might talk about it, but you know who's going to talk about it way more? The veterans, the hardcore players, the people who are obsessed with the game, who have been playing it for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 plus years. And you want those people to talk about the game because those people know the game deeply. They can distill it down. They can simplify it for new people, right? And their opinion online is going to carry more weight. They're gonna type something on social media. Oh, I've played this game for 5 years and it's so fun. It's the best Marvel game or whatever. I'll be like, oh, okay, I'll check that out. Rather than someone like, hey, I've been playing this for a week and it's good. No one cares, bro. Everyone plays the game for a week because they have a new route to go to work or school or whatever, and they need time to kill. So they need to make the people. They need to find a way to make the people who play the game religiously talk about it more. And simply put, they just need to change more things at the end game. For endgame players, they need to create more difficulty or more complexity or something in the late stage of the game. It's a very funny and kind of contradictory balance between the two things, but these are what I see as the two main problems of the game. The game's not bad. The problem with the game is that new players quit because the game's too complex, so they have to address that, which we just talked about. And then old players, veterans, existing players slowly quit because the game stagnates for too long. And what that means is the stagnation is basically you hit this plateau where you feel like you're no longer making progress. And this is a very complex topic. I will give it to the devs that they've done a pretty good job of managing this over the years, and it's something that you have to continuously manage. But for example, I don't know if we're ever going to get another GBR, but I think GBR is a big thing for existing players because you have to play it every day and it does not change and it just gets so boring. There's just no way around it, right? Grinding the same boss every single day for 3 years, going on 4 years is just insane. And you absolutely need to, you cannot avoid doing this, right? You can't. There's no other place you can go to farm the materials, right? If I could choose to instead do 6 runs of world boss instead of 5, and maybe it's like minimum stage 20, and that way I could get my Soul of the Palatine, oh hell yeah, baby, I would do that, right? You can introduce, it doesn't necessarily have to be complexity, it can be flexibility. Like, hey, if you're really bored of GBR, then you can do something else. You can play, I don't know, zombie survival, but you have to get to at least stage 5, and then that day you'll get your GBR rewards. This is not my magnum opus. This is not my grand idea. This is just something off the top of my head. But the point I'm trying to make is, for the existing long-term veteran players, you have to find ways of introducing novelty. Whether you introduce novelty by introducing new bosses and new difficulties and new sort of like chapters to unlock, new mountains to climb, or you take the existing complexity in the game. If you don't want to introduce more complexity, then you have to introduce flexibility, so the player feels like they're being kind of challenged in some way, their time is being respected in some way, and they're not just being forced to, hey, wake up, it's time to grind GBR again. Yes, honey, okay, yeah, time to play GBR again. Okay, yeah, I need my 100 boost points. Okay, this shit kills the soul of the player, right? Not in like a philosophical way, but I just mean you don't want to brag about a game that you grind in endlessly, right? That's not fun. You want to grind about you want to talk about a game that's fun and challenging and interesting. It can have some grinding, but if it's just grinding, you're going to lose a lot of people. So that's basically what it comes down to. It comes down to attacking those two ideas, which can sometimes be on opposite ends of design principles. I understand that, it's difficult to make the game more compelling for veterans without also making it more complex for new players. I understand that it's kind of a dichotomy, and I understand that it's difficult, but I'm sure that they have ways of figuring this out. But I see those two as the main problems that the game has, and they just need to find solutions for them. It's really that simple. They've done it in the past. We've seen it with obviously World Boss Legend, World Boss Legend Plus. This is what I'm saying in the second half of the video, where it's like they're trying to make things a bit more interesting for existing players. They're rewarding the nostalgia by bringing Thanos back. Like, they're smart, right? They have some good ideas, but they just don't execute them as frequently as I guess I would like them to, or I think they should. And that's why the game has these sort of like roller coaster highs and then these really low lows, because of that, right? And so next month when they drop the Epic Quest, it's going to be a high for veteran players because they're going to get rewarded for having grinded all this content ahead of time. They're going to be able to dive in and rip through the Epic Quest in a few days, And then for new players, it's going to be a mixture of good and bad, because it does add complexity, but it does give them new stuff to check out, and the Epic Quests are generally quite easy for the first third or the first half of it. But that is short-lived, right? The Epic Quests are a short-term high that wears off in a couple of months, and then we'll be in January. Guess what? That's the second most boring time of the year for the game. And then people will be like, man, how long until the anniversary? So to avoid that fatigue, again, I think the devs need to attack this as a two-pronged approach. One, reducing the complexity of the game for new players without making the game too easy for veterans, obviously. It has to be sort of a delicate balance. And then creating, right, generating novelty or flexibility for existing players, generating some challenge, generating some quirk, even things like, for example, the Shield Archive. It's nice that this is a really approachable, easy grind where it's like, hey, just do the stuff you regularly do and we're going to reward you. But they could also add some additional rewards in, or some additional incentives in for veterans. Hey, we can add something beyond 100%. We can add like the extreme mode, and the extreme mode maybe is just like temporary buffs or something else like that. But in order to do that, you have to like be dispatch. It's got to be dispatch sector 14 only, right? Or 13, or it has to be only dimension mission difficulty 15, right? Or something like that. You know what I mean? Just try to find a little bit of novelty. Try to put a little bit of a spin on the existing stuff for existing players, because the players that keep coming back to the game, they want to come back to the game, right? They're already hooked. They've hooked themselves. You just need to, change the color of the lights sometime and jiggle the keys, and they'll be fine, right? But when you don't do that and everything stays stale and all the required, like, bro, don't even get me started with the shit. They kept the same ban list for 2 seasons in a row, which is 4 weeks of the same. Like this kind of stuff where the ban list is the same, this kind of stuff where the ban list is just mindless. This is unacceptable. This is what pisses existing players off and forces them to reconsider spending as much time, money in the game, or quit entirely. Let alone forget talking about the game. They're just gonna badmouth the game, right? You really have to carefully manage existing players' perceptions of your respect for their time, If the player feels like their time is being disrespected as an existing player, as a veteran, as a whale, oh buddy, you're on a slope, you're on the fast track to losing a lot of the player base. And yeah, so that's what I see. Anyways, so hit me up in the comments down below. I don't think the game is dead. I don't think the game is dying. I just think the devs need to lock in a little bit more, and yeah, I think they might be stalling a little bit too hard for Avengers Doomsday. And they need to kind of they need to add some of their own, sugar and spice before then. But yeah, thanks for watching. Smash the like button for the content, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.